that she quit the team, because in my eyes, that's definitely what she did. And it looked like Alyssa Thomas will be getting fined for doing this in Indianapolis. Guys, for this one here, they just refuse to talk to the media, which is so freaking weird to me. Kind of, making a complete fool of herself, and now she's finna be getting fined.
Normal smoke, it wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country will call Dublin. She had the big schmuck.
That she quit the team, because in my eyes that's definitely what she did. And it looked like Alyssa Thomas will be getting fined for doing this in Indianapolis. Guys, for this one here, they just refused to talk to the media, which is so freaking weird to me. Kind of, making a complete fool of herself, and now she's going to be getting fined. Alyssa Thomas just got banned by the WNBA after her shocking behavior in the latest game. Yep, you read that right. I mean, come on. When you've been in the league long enough to know the rules by heart, but still decide to flip the script and act like you're untouchable, consequences are inevitable. Guess you can't just keep throwing tantrums like you're running the show without someone stepping in, huh? So, Alyssa Thomas had all the smoke. Alyssa Thomas just got banned from the WNBA. Yes, you heard that right. But before you jump to conclusions, let's break down what really went down. Sure, it's a sensational claim designed to get your attention, but the behavior Alyssa showed during the latest game was so outrageous that it's hard to imagine this won't have major consequences. Just normal smoke. It wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country will call Dublin. She had the big schmoke. A band? Not yet. But the possibility of future penalties and suspension is very much on the table. Let's dive into how Alyssa's actions, some of which were completely out of line for a professional athlete, might just cost her big time. But it turns out I saw it posted here. 2025 WNBA media access policy states no later than 10 minutes following the game. First off, let's talk about the game itself. It was a huge matchup, high stakes, intense, and full of drama. But what really set things off wasn't the score, the plays, or even the fact that her team lost. It was Alyssa's unprofessional behavior both on and off the court. Each head coach and two players leading scorer and key contributor per team be available in separate press conference room for a nurse and Zoom meetings. She found herself at the center of a massive controversy when she broke a key WNBA policy, and then doubled down on it in front of the world. It all started with a simple violation: her refusal to speak to the media after the game. It's looking like Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury are going to be fined because she just said nah. She just said nah. And I'm sorry, like, you can't have all the smoke. You cannot. Now in the WNBA, there's a rule that requires players to be available for interviews within 10 minutes of the game. This rule is in place to ensure the fans get insight into the game, the team's dynamics, and the players' perspectives. But Alyssa Thomas, she completely ignored this rule. No press conference, no apology, nothing. Just silence. And this wasn't some off-the-cuff defiance. We're talking about a clear breach of professional conduct. You cannot be allegedly telling fans Dana chose to join a real basketball team. You cannot be saying stuff like that, and then hide. I'm sorry. Like Alyssa Thomas, I mean this when I say this. Sure, players get frustrated, but the consequences for defying media protocols are serious. Alyssa's actions didn't just disrespect the media or her fans, they disrespected the entire WNBA. The league thrives on public engagement, and when you refuse to speak after a high-profile game, it's more than just a bad look. It sends a message that you're above the rules. Now, every fan, every journalist, and even her own teammates are left wondering, why did she refuse to face the music, honor? But Alyssa Thomas, her partner, who was the high scorer on the Mercury, did decide not to go to the post-game interview, of which the Mercury were fined for her not doing so. By breaking this policy, Alyssa didn't just cross a line. She practically jumped over it. For the WNBA, it's not just about following rules. It's about the integrity of the league and how athletes represent it. And to make things worse, this wasn't just a minor slip-up. Her defiance was drama-filled and clearly done to make a statement. But that statement, it wasn't a professional one. And at least she's woman enough to admit it. Now the viewership numbers was released. Now let's talk about the fallout. You know how it goes. Once you step out of line in sports, fans and media don't let you forget it. Alyssa wasn't just avoiding a press conference. She was ignoring the very people who helped elevate her career. Fans want to hear what their stars have to say after a big game, especially when that game is emotional and full of tension. But Alyssa chose to shut them out instead. And it's not just the media who was affected. Her teammates and coaches, they're all left to pick up the pieces all day. He say last night presentation 2024 WNBA Finals rematch the Liberty and the Lynx was the third most watched non-Indiana Fever game this season. The repercussions were swift. The Phoenix Mercury will likely face a fine, and that's just the beginning. Teams are not above the rules, and the WNBA has a long history of holding players accountable. What Alyssa might not have realized is that her actions could backfire. The WNBA doesn't take these things lightly. Fines are the least of her worries. If she keeps down this path, who knows what could be next, maybe even a suspension or worse. But it's okay to acknowledge that the Fever are in a class of their own when it comes to TV rating. Great news. WNBA viewership is up 21% of the full 2024 season rundown. FYI. But it wasn't just the media that felt the heat. Her fans were left in the dark and many of them didn't take kindly to her defiance. Alyssa is a leader on her team and when she decided to ignore the media, it sent a message that she might not be as accountable as fans once thought. That's a dangerous precedent for a player of her stature. Fans expect transparency. They expect honesty. And when you leave them hanging, well, they'll respond. And in Alyssa's case, it's not going to be pretty. It's clear now that this defiance was about more than just a refusal to speak. It was a statement, one that pushed the boundaries of what's acceptable in the WNBA. Alyssa's actions might just have caused irreparable damage to her public image. And at the very least, it has sparked a major controversy that's still unfolding. Listen, you'll see Caitlin Clark standing right there like, come on. Alyssa Thomas wasn't just avoiding the media after the latest game against the Indiana Fever. She was also deeply involved in a heated fan backlash that centered around former Fever player Dana Bonner. The boos started flying when Dana stepped on the court. But it wasn't just the fans who were caught up in it. Well, nobody crying about it. This captain said the Fever are not soft. We embrace the smoke. And if they boo us, here is how we handled it. Alyssa Thomas decided to clap back at the fans who were booing Bonner, intensifying an already hostile atmosphere. It wasn't just any clapback either. Alyssa actively engaged with the crowd, encouraging the boos. This wasn't an isolated moment of frustration. It was a calculated reaction to a situation she clearly wasn't backing down from. Kind of, making a complete fool of herself. And now she's going to be getting fined because she refused to speak to the media. Now, I believe Angel Reese. The fans' reaction was loud and passionate, which is typical when a player like Dana Bonner returns to a former home court after an abrupt departure. However, what made this situation worse was that Alyssa's engagement with the crowd wasn't about showing support for her teammate. It was more about amplifying the hostility for whatever reason. But it seemed like this is what they do in this league. Like when things don't go their way, they just refuse to talk to the media, which is so freaking weird to me. She wasn't trying to calm the situation down or keep her focus on the game. Instead, she became part of the spectacle. The crowd became more divided, and the energy in the arena shifted from a competitive atmosphere to one of pure chaos. Fans were caught between booing and cheering for Alyssa's boldness, which only heightened the drama. We'll be like, well, we'll likely be fine because they chose to break the rule. Now this came out last night. Well, I believe early this morning. Now, this wasn't something that went unnoticed by Sophie Cunningham and Kaya Copper. These two players from the Phoenix Mercury were vocal in their support for Dana Bonner, but their criticism was directed squarely at the unprofessional nature of Alyssa's behavior. Sophie Cunningham especially wasn't shy about calling out the situation in the post-game interview about them breaking the rule. Now, this is interesting here, man. Because you would think she had so much negative energy towards the fans that she would have wanted to answer these questions from the media. She questioned the lack of respect shown to Dana, calling the booing distasteful, especially given Dana's contribution to the league. Cunningham's words, however, weren't just about defending a teammate. They were aimed at highlighting how Alyssa's actions in the heat of the moment reflected poorly on the Mercury, a team already struggling to manage such high emotions. But the end of the day, man, that's a lie how these women be dog. Kaya Copper in her interview also echoed similar concerns. She emphasized how unnecessary and disrespectful the entire episode was. But her message was also targeted. It wasn't just about the fans in the stands, but also about how Alyssa, as a team leader, had exacerbated the situation. Kappa's comments painted a picture of how Alyssa's involvement in the crowd dynamic wasn't helping, but rather feeding the flames of hostility. Both players seemed to be frustrated that the game had shifted from a basketball